Hello everyone. Don't mind the clothes behind me. I wanted to I'm getting ready to clean this room all up. I just got clean clothes just laying around from the last few weeks here. I'll go into later, where I've been, what's happened when I told you that some troubles have come my way now. And I will tell all that later. But that's not originally why I stopped my videos. Like for the first 2 or 3 weeks that you didn't see me coming and speaking and making videos, I went through, and there's no way to describe it. When I finally just come to a great understanding and I was settled and sure on so many things, it was what I knew all along. It was always in me. It's like I had to prove the things that was in me, the things that I had received before. It's like His Word was on trial in me. And, once the truth was on trial. And it was always proved true. And I went through, because it's not, just a very rough time in spirit, where it's kind of like I realized what wickedness and evil can be done to His Word. How diverse people take it, and I just realized all the wrong that can be done and is done to the Word, and the twisting, but I experienced it inside. I experienced it in a way that I can't. For 2 weeks, I don't even know how to explain what I went through. And but then there's another trouble because of certain things going on in my life. On top of that, it's just everything in my life. Everything's been too much for a long time. While I've been receiving revelations these years, I also was running 2 stores, 2 houses, a bunch of grown adult children, grandbabies. I just had everything, and responsibility is so much. There's just so much that was on me, and but when I was receiving the revelation, it's like there was nothing that was above it, and there's no words that can describe all these things. So, but when I finally understood and was sure and realized, you've always had it, you've always known the truth, and it takes me back, to when I was young, and then I went through it was when I married into the Pentecostal family, and it's when the religion, when they started shoving the doctrines down my throat. I understand now what happened. It was the spirit in me that was denying the things that they said. That I had no knowledge. All I had was faith. All I had was what was in my heart. And they told me, when they showed me a God I didn't know, they made, they caused me to doubt and waver, although I held to that faith. But from the moment, that they made, it's so hard to, they kind of condemned the God that I had in my heart, the spirit that I knew, the love and the truth. All the time, while they was saying that what I held was the false, and that they was true. And here I was not knowing anything and just being, I wasn't, I had no one to defend the faith in me. So when they, showed me their God, I just, that's when I went inside, and that's when I, there's no explaining these things. And then when I found that, when I decided after years that I wanted to know, I wanted to understand, and that's when I went to the God of my understanding, and I said, show me, teach me, I want to know the truth. And that's when the book was alive to me. Because and you had to believe. I believed that prayer would be answered. I believed that, I believe the word. If you seek, that you will find. If seek me diligently with all thy heart, you will find. And that's what I did. And I believed it would be shown, and then the word became alive to me. But what I heard in the book, it was, it was my joy when I heard, the scripture, when I heard the truth, when I heard the Spirit, and that these things are true when you hear them. And but that's not what the world has said. And having not faith in yourself, it was me not having faith in myself, doubting myself. I didn't doubt the word that I heard. I doubted that myself was hearing, so I wasn't able to do what I would with the word then, because I let doubts come in through them, through their teaching. Their God was not the God that I knew. Their God was not the God that I heard in the word. And a long time I never, there was no one to confirm me. I knew inside myself that what I heard was true. And it was many years. You're afraid. At this point, I'm just like anyone else. I was meeker than most people. I was just weaker. I was just mentally in every way, I was a weak person. The only thing that was strong in me was my faith, and that there was wavering from what they had, from the confusion that their God caused in me. And I remember, they tell you, this is what you better believe, and this is this, and this what this, and they just don't, and you don't listen to anything else, and don't read any other books, because they're all, people repeat the same thing they're told from their teachers, and people believe and say it just because that's what they've been told. So, I knew I was hearing in a way that most had not heard. These have not heard what I've heard. It's so hard to explain that mind, that, going from there to here, but, and like you hear the Gnostic Gospels or the Apocrypha, I didn't know what they were. I didn't, you hear them, but that that's all Antichrist. All that stuff is just, those Gnostic Gospels, those are just, you was told. That's Satan stuff. And I really didn't know nothing about any of it, but many years later, somehow I had gotten a hold of the Gospel of Thomas. And I, with that little bit of fear in me that, I'm not supposed to be reading this stuff, but I read it. And I haven't studied the Gnostic Gospels a lot, but at that point I hadn't, ever read any of them. And it was the same. I heard the things that I heard. This makes sense. This is what I hear. It's in spirit. It was always in spirit. See, their carnal God and doctrines that they taught did not warred against the things that I knew in spirit. And when I first heard it, I walked in much darkness for many years before I picked up that book and heard the same things that I had heard when I originally opened the book and heard the message, the good news, when I heard the word of spirit. And but still, many years on after this, I still couldn't, still was in much confusion, because I just couldn't, I didn't have enough right knowledge. I didn't have enough faith, I guess, to understand what all of this meant. That this book, I had never really even heard of Gnostic Gospel, but I'd never heard any of the teaching. And here I was, I had found this message in the Bible, that there was no one who could help me, no one who understood what I was hearing. And then some 10 years later, I hear the same message that I heard in the Bible in this Gnostic Gospel, or at least closer to it than what these doctrines and denominations are teaching. Because that's what they teach. It's carnal misunderstanding, misconception, misinterpretation of the word of spirit. They put carnal understanding on things that never had a carnal understanding. It was always of spirit. You can't mix them. They're not. There's a witness to the flesh and the witness to the spirit. Those of spirit will hear spirit, will witness to the spirit. Those who are carnal will hear, the same thing. They will hear the carnal. They will put out the carnal. But there's many things that they put into understanding of carnally that it was never carnal. That all through the scripture is parables, is metaphors, is spiritual meaning, and they will use them if they know, if it speaks plain out that that's a parable. They'll understand it's a parable, not meant to be taken, but they don't understand it's all the way through the scriptures. The spirit hears the spirit, the spiritual. It is not of carnal flesh. The conception of Christ, that happens in the mind, that happens in the heart, that is conceiving the word. And when we have understanding, after the word is matured and grown, then we put it out of our mouth. We are birthing that word. We are speaking forth the word of life that has grown within us. There's much to be understood of, and certain things I haven't fully grasped or comprehended, or sometimes I haven't fully separated certain things. We'll just say that the flesh that dies, is not what it has to say in that scripture. Is not the same. When the seed dies, does not say it's not the same body that is raised. There's the resurrection of Jesus was much confusion to me. That was my greatest confusion. Is what body was that was resurrected? And then there's also a separation between the Christ and Jesus. The Word. What is the Word cannot die. What is eternal cannot die. That's what it means to be eternal. You have no end and no beginning. So whatever is the eternal word cannot die, because it has no beginning and ending. If it was to die, it would not be eternal. There's a separation to be made there, and an understanding to come to with what Christ means and what Jesus means, and what was done in the fullness. And therefore we know, and it shows again that it wasn't that same body. So what was it that was raised up? Because those that did not recognize that body, did they not recognize it? They did not, if their appearance, the eyes, they did not recognize the one that was raised. But there is a separation between that body of reconciliation and the Christ that never died. What is eternal can never die. It has no beginning and end. And there was many, I don't know if I should say many, when Christ is heard and it is conceived, that word is conceived, Jesus was the first begotten, but it was not the last. And others would follow. The way, the truth, and life, that showed you the example. That showed you the process of what needs to be done and how it works. It was the example for us to follow. But it was not the last. There were others who heard. And and he gave them power to become the sons of God. All who would hear that eternal word, they was given the power. It is that eternal word that gives you the power to become the children of God. And the children of God is those who hear that word and take it to their heart, and they ponder it, and then they put it back out because they know it's life. It's life to those who hear it. And it's what's caused this death in the world and all this in the world. It's because you haven't heard. Anyone who's out there just still striving over doctrines and scriptures and verses and, looking to the flesh. You're not looking to Christ. If you're looking to the flesh, you're looking to the carnal letter. Those of Christ, they ponder that word in their heart, and they no longer look to the things of the flesh. They no longer judge after the flesh. They no longer have their understanding after the flesh. They're two total separate things. But most out there is those trying to mix it and make it one, I don't know. I don't even know if any of this made sense. The letter will keep you going until you know and separate wholly the spirit from the flesh. You will stay in that confusion, and you will never grasp the fullness that is of Christ, the fullness that is Spirit. The Spirit has nothing to do with the flesh. The flesh is dead, and life in the Spirit, flesh death. The carnal letter and understanding has nothing to do with what is of Spirit. And those who have heard that word, those who have that is the seed. When you hear that word, and the seed is planted in your heart, and you ponder these things, and you come to, and that understanding grows in you. And, you know, that's the word of spirit growing in you. You are, you know, and when you start, when that spirit becomes alive, and you put, and you speak these things, and you follow after the teachings of the Spirit, the leadings of the Spirit, you are a brethren of Christ. You together, Christ, it is that word that unites us to become brethren, to those who have the power to become the children of God, is from the word of Christ in you, that you have the power to become the sons of God. It has nothing to do with the flesh. Just as the word cannot die. The word never died. It was only hidden. Hidden behind layers of flesh, maybe, and many carnal letters. But the word cannot die. It was hidden me for long, but I know my life will not be in vain. That was promised to me long ago, that this word was not given to me for nothing, that there was a purpose for it. And it's really nothing that I will do. It had nothing to do with me. It was the purpose. It was the Father's purpose. He will fulfill it. That's all I'll say for now. Father bless you.